Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are diving into something super exciting and trending called Agentic Automation. You might have heard about RPA, Robotic Process Automation, and AI powered automation, but Agentic Automation is a game changer that takes things to a whole new level. Agentic Automation is the next big thing in the world of automation. It's all about giving software agents the power to act on their own. And how? By using large language models, generative AI, and large action models. These agents can understand their environment, ask questions, make decisions, and take action to achieve specific goals. And all this without needing humans to guide them. So, what is agentic automation? Agentic automation represents a transformative approach in the automation landscape. Unlike traditional task based automation, agentic automation emphasizes the autonomy and decision making capabilities. Let's break down into simple words. Think of it this way: in traditional automation, everything has to be rule based, deterministic. It doesn't have self learning capabilities. And if there is a new scenario, human intervention is needed. So that's how we used to automate. That's the traditional approach. Now, with agentic automation, we can automate complex tasks and workflows that used to be too unpredictable. Now, business can fully automate end to end process, even the ones which are too complex to automate. As we discussed earlier, it refers to design and deploy autonomous software systems. What does autonomous software systems mean? So these are the software agents which can run on their own. Let's say you ask an agent to do certain task, and it will not ask you more questions. It will do everything by itself, and at the end, it will give you the result. So that's how agentic automation works. And what exactly it does? It perceives their own environment. It have reasoning capabilities, so it can reason about their own objectives and constraints, and it can act accordingly dynamically to achieve goals with minimal human intervention. And at the end, it can learn from outcome. If the outcome that is been given by agent, if human is not satisfied, we can revert it back, and then from that it can learn again. So these agents operate independently to handle complex unstructured tasks, adapting dynamic scenarios where predefined rules may not be there. I hope I was clear about explaining what is agentic automation. If these terms are complicated and if you're not able to get, don't worry. At the end, we have a practical example where I'll be explaining an entire use case with traditional RPA approach and then the agentic automation approach. So let's go to the next slide. So now we know what is agentic automation, and now let's see how agentic automation can work autonomously by itself. There are some key core technologies that are used to enable agentic automation. First one is artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. This will help in decision making by its own. Next, human has to tell something to agent, right? So how he is going to interact? He uses his natural language. So this natural language has to be processed by agent, right? So for that, agentic automation uses natural language processing to understand and communicate back. Next, so once user asks an agent to do something, it understands that, but at the end it has to carry out some task, right? So that task can be an RPA. To execute that task, we might need our robotic process automation. So by using these core technologies, AML, NLP, and then RPA, we can enable agentic automation. Next, why we need agentic automation and why does it matter? Why not traditional RPA and why do we have to go to agentic automation? With agentic automation, there are efficiency gains. How? By reducing human oversight and adapting in real time. For example, in traditional approach, the rule-based tasks will be automated, and the other ones where human intervention is needed. For that, human has to manually interpret, and then human has to do manual work. So that can be avoided, and that will be an efficiency gain. Next, innovation opportunities through creative problem-solving capabilities, and then resilience. So environments can be unpredictable. Let's say we are automating SAP. So in traditional RPA, if there is a selector change, then automation will break, telling that it cannot click on particular element because that element got changed. So these environments are unpredictable. So with agentic automation, it doesn't matter. Even if the element changes, with AI, it dynamically finds that element, what can be the other option. If that particular element is not available, it automatically predicts that and then it continues. Next, let's discuss some key features of agentic automation. Firstly, context awareness. Agents gather and process contextual information to make informed decisions. And goal oriented behavior. Rather than executing fixed workflows like how we do in traditional RPA, agents aim to achieve high level objectives. So these objectives can change dynamically. Next, autonomous decision making. As we discussed earlier, we have AI and ML algorithms with agents. So decisions are made in real time without constant supervision using algorithms like reinforcement learning or rule based systems and continuous learning. Agents improve their performance by learning from data, feedback, and environmental interactions. Let's say human requested something from agent. If human is not satisfied, accordingly, human can tell to agent like this is not the actual answer. I'm expecting something else. So upon that, agent can learn from that outcome, and then in the next run, it can improve by itself. So coming to real world applications, it can help in many areas. Let's take some key areas like customer service, supply chain management, healthcare, and let's say financial services. In customer services, virtual agents can provide personalized support on resolving queries by analyzing customer history and sentiment. So it can check customer's history and whether he is angry or whether he is sad or whether he is happy. By that, accordingly, it can reply to the customer. And in supply chain management, autonomous systems optimize. So these autonomous agents can optimize inventory, predict the requirement early in early stages, and then it can manage logistics accordingly. And in healthcare, AI driven agents can assist in diagnostics and personalized treatment plans. It can be like a simple healthcare AI agent where user can explain his current state. He can explain what is happening with his health, and accordingly, agent will have a knowledge, medical knowledge, and with that medical knowledge, it will give you the personalized treatment plans. So in that case, in healthcare, it can be helpful. So now we know what is agentic automation, why does it matter, and how it works. So now let's take a simple example to understand the traditional approach and then the agentic automation approach. Let's take a very simple example, which is very common. So before getting into the example, we might have a doubt like with agentic automation, traditional RPA might be dead in future. I would say no, because even with the agentic automation, the task the tasks will be still carried out by an RPA. So traditional RPA can handle many aspects. With agentic automation, it just adds a layer of intelligence, adaptability, and decision making. So let's get back to our example, invoice processing. So let's see the traditional approach. So in traditional RPA approach, what do we do? A robot will be created which picks up the invoices from email box and it extracts key data like invoice number and amount. This extraction can be done by document understanding or if it is digital completely, then a simple read PDF and then with regular expressions we extract the invoice number and amount, right? And then it will match the data with ERP systems, confirm if it is right or wrong, and accordingly it will send the processed invoice for approval. Or if anything else happens, if it is not able to find the invoice number or amount, it will just raise a flag or it will just create an action item. Let's say if you are using UiPath, it will raise an action item to human, and human will intervene in between, and then the next steps will be carried out accordingly. So these are we do invoice processing in traditional RP approach. So the main limitation that we have in traditional approach, as we discussed here, any deviation from the predefined process. Let's say the rule is defined. Let's say we created regular expression. Any deviation from that rule will not be processed. The bot will fail, and for that, manual intervention might be needed. So that's how we do in traditional approach. Now let's see how we can make it more reliable with agentic automation. Now let's see the agentic automation approach. So firstly, sensing. Agentic automation monitors the inbox and dynamically identifies invoices, and these can be in different formats. It can be a PDF, it can be image, or it can be a Word document, anything. It can be an email message. So it doesn't matter. There is no fixed format. It can dynamically take the documents in any formats, and it uses AI powered OCR. So instead of a regular expression or a standard rule, it will use AI powered optical character recognition and then natural language processing to extract key data accurately, learning to handle new layouts without reprogramming. So in traditional RP approach, if the format is different, then we might have to code accordingly to the new format, right? That can be avoided in agentic automation. So that's about sensing. So let's call it as, so in traditional approach we call it as input, right? So in agentic automation we call it as sensing. Next, thinking. So if an invoice is missing required fields, let's say purchase order number or invoice number, if that is missing, the system checks for related information across email threads and then from the historical data. So if invoice number is mentioned in email, so it will still pick up from there. It will not say like invoice number is not available in the PDF, so I cannot continue. It will find an alternative. It can think on its own, and it evaluates vendor credibility based on the prior transactions and decides whether to flag the invoice as too risky or proceed. So it can have, like, just like how human thinks, it can think on its own. Next, so it sensed the environment, it had its own thinking, and now accordingly it will act. So we had a problem with missing required fields, right? So accordingly it will think and then it will act. It will reconcile invoices with purchase orders in real time, handling these discrepancies. If it encounters an error, the system will either self correct or escalate to human with actionable suggestions. It will not just create an action item, it will suggest what human has to do also. And at the end, learning. In the second case of acting, where it faced an error, at that time, human review will be taken, right? I mean, human will review it manually, right? So from that, if that happens again, it will learn by itself. For example, if vendor uses a non-standard format, the system adapts to process it without human intervention in next time. So for the first time, it will ask for human intervention, and then the next time it will adapt by itself. Now let's see the benefits in action, comparing the traditional RPA and agentic automation. As we saw, it cannot handle unexpected formats, but in agentic automation, it can learn and adapt to the new format. So if there is any new environment or new situation happened in traditional RPA, it will just flag the error, and then you might have to handle that situation manually. But in agentic automation, it will provide the context and then it will suggest you the fixes. In traditional RPA, you might require frequent manual bot updates for all these new environments. You might have to manually update the robots. But in agentic automation, it will improve continuously by itself. I hope I was clear. I think now you're able to differentiate traditional RPA, agentic automation.